Hey guys, we're back for episode 2. My hair's all crazy, but today we're looking at how I created a tool that made adding decks to Anki a lot more easier. And if you don't know what Anki is, then stay tuned. Let's go. So what is Anki? Anki is a tool that utilizes spaced repetition, and what that is that you have some flashcards which have a front and a back. So for example, the verb diavazo, to read, will be on the front of the card and to read on the back. If you know the verb, you categorize it as easy and then you're reminded in a later period of time. And if you categorize the word as hard, then you come across that word a lot more frequently. And that's basically what Anki is. So why am I using Anki? Well, for a couple of months now I've been using Duolingo to learn Greek. Why Greek? I have some Cypriot friends who speak Greek, and I thought it would be nice to learn a few phrases here and there. So I thought, why not just use Duolingo? So when I use Duolingo, if I come across a new topic such as travel or education, I'd write a Greek phrase. For example, I ephemerida, the newspaper, hyphen, the newspaper. And then once I had come across all the new words in that section, that topic, I would email myself, the whole list of words with the intention to add it to Anki later. And then the other day I sat down and said, you know what, I've got time on my hands, let's start adding some stuff to Anki. Because by this time I accumulated a massive list of the words from each topic. This is where it gets even more stupid. So first of all, to add the Greek phrase, I was changing the language of my keyboard to Greek and then trying to type the word. But because letters don't directly correspond, it was a pain to find them. And then I was changing it back to English to add the second English phrase. I know. So I thought, why am I doing this? Why don't I just copy the Greek phrase from the email as the front card and the English phrase as the second card, press submit, do it that way? I did this 4 times and I thought, why am I doing this? I'm a computer scientist. Why don't I just take the list of Greek and English phrases as one massive string, pass the string by the hyphens, separating the Greek phrase and the English phrase, and then on the website where I enter the front and back card information, put the Greek phrase for the front card and the English phrase for the back card, press submit, and then do this for each line in the list, thus automating the process. And that's exactly what I did. So let me show you how. Hey guys, let's just jump straight to it. Looking through this code, I realized that I've written it in Kotlin, not Java, but it doesn't really matter because they're both fairly identical. Kotlin resembles JavaScript, if anything. So we have the main class called main.kt and the config class .kt. .kt is just a Kotlin extension as opposed to .java for a Java file. So first of all, we have a companion object, and in Kotlin that just basically says that these values are static. And that just means that there's only one of these values as opposed to many different instances of these values. Const val means that these values cannot change and will not be reassigned. If things don't change, it's good to have variables that can be used as placeholders rather than typing values, and it also saves you from making mistakes as well. The email and password is what we use to log into the website that contains the decks, and the deck name is just the deck where you want to add your cards to. Again, it's better if you give it a constant name so you don't make mistakes. The path to the Chrome driver is something that you have downloaded, which will help with the automating of logging into the website and adding the decks. So let's go back to the main method and I will explain things from there. So to clarify, what this code does, it logs into the website automatically using the email and password that you provide from the config file. It then takes the list of words that you provided, separates them into the Greek phrase and the English phrase, and then those are split into the front and back cards. To achieve this automation, I used something called Selenium. I think it's Selenium. So what Selenium is a tool which allows you to carry out browser tests in an automated fashion. So you can simulate clicks of the button, entering text into fields, and so forth. And I thought that this would be the perfect tool to use in order to achieve what I wanted to achieve for this project. So I added this project to my GitHub, and in there, in the README, I explained how to install Selenium and how to use Chrome driver, which is something that you also need to download. So I'll just speak through. First, you set this property. So you give it this string here with the path to your Chrome driver exe location. I've given the source of where I downloaded Chrome driver from. This will probably change, but this is the version of Chrome that I needed. This code is very documented, which is very nice. It makes it easy going back in retrospect and explaining it. So I've created an instance of the Chrome driver. This is how you create an instance of an object in Kotlin. Considering my first proper video was in Java, it's kind of a massive jump, but hopefully you get the gist of it. So then once I create an instance of Chrome driver, I call a method which allows me to log in and navigate to the edit page. So let's go to this method. So we navigate to the website, ankiweb.net/dex. I think ankiweb.net would have sufficed by itself. Once we're at the website, we look for the email field so we can start typing in our email. We give the browser an XPath to look for to find this email field. And if you know what an XPath is, it's basically a way in which we can query nodes of an HTML document. So we're looking for an ID which is called email, and once we find this field, we're going to give it the value. Send keys allows us to pass the value of our email. We do the same for our password field. We look for an ID which is password and we send our password. This line and this line is the equivalent of us manually typing in the email and password to log in. And now the next thing you do is to press the login button. So we look for the login button. Again, we look for an ID which is called form. Inside, I think that means the third div. I'll have to double check that. And input. So we're looking for an input button. And then we press submit. So this submit is the equivalent of clicking. So I want to show you guys how you can get these XPath values. So I'm going to open up a browser. So here we are on the ankiweb.net website. This email field here corresponds to this, and the password to this, and the login button to this. So if I want to find the XPath for this email field, if I right click, inspect element, it's highlighted right here. If I right click this and I press copy XPath, I can just print it here. And as we can see, this is the XPath. This should be equivalent to this. I had to escape the string because the string itself uses the double quotes. If I want to put the double quotes in the string, I have to escape the character by using a backslash to say that I mean that this should be a double string and it shouldn't be a string, if you know what I mean. So that's how I found the XPath for the email field, and the same for the password and for the submit button. So let's get rid of this. Back to this now, guys. Let's get rid of this, don't no longer need it. So quick detour, but useful information to know. So at this point here, we're logged into the website, providing your email and password are correct and your XPaths. And then we go to the part where we want to edit, i.e. add a deck. So first thing we do is we clear our deck. I think they give you a default deck name. So I cleared that, meaning whatever's inside that input field, remove it, and then I add whatever deck name I want to give it. So it's a good thing that we use a static variable here, because we can just change it inside here and then we never have to come back to the code and keep changing it. And that's the end of our login and navigate to edit method. So we go to the site, log in, go to the edit and set our deck name. So let's go back to the main method. So once we've logged in, we locate the field which represents the front card value, and then the same for the back card. And we also look for the save button, the button that allows us to submit the new card. Once we have all those three things, again located via the XPaths. So next we get our list of words which we want to add as front and back cards. I've said here that we add list of words to store. The first word is the front of the card and the second is the back. So the first word, grandma, is the front card and the second word will be the back card letter. It said front and back values are separated by a hyphen. and each line must end with a dot character. So I found that when I was parsing this list, it would parse that correctly as the first word, but then the second word, it didn't know when the end of the line reached. Now, maybe I could have done this a better way, but I thought, okay, every time I add a list of words, I'll just add a dot on the end, showing that this is where the line ends. Dot trimming then, that just removes any leading characters and spaces and any indentations inside this list that I give it. Then I process the list of words and store the deck. So I'm calling a method here called list of words. I pass in the front field and back field and the save button, the references that I created up here. And then I also pass in the list of words, which is this long string. So let's go to this list of words method. So this is where all the magic happens basically. So there's only two methods in this class, logging in and then where all the magic happens. So we create a variable called splitted strings, in which we get the list of words, which is that massive string. We trim it, removing any leading and trailing white spaces. Then we split the string, looking for its periods and hyphens. So we look for the periods, signifying the end of a card essentially, and the hyphen signifying the front card and the back card. Once we found them, they are then split into this array or list of strings. Then I create a list, store the sanitized key and values, keys being the front card and values being the back card. So I instantiate a list of formatted strings. So in Kotlin, rather than using a for each loop or a for loop, I can just call for each on a string array. I can then access elements of that array using the keyword it. I have then trimmed the keyword again, double checking, removing any spaces. I then replace any instance of this period with blank. So basically I'm saying for each word, if I have this by itself, remove the dot and just give me the actual word by itself. So I do that for each item inside the array, and once that's finished, I store the finished result inside my formatted strings. Once that's done, to make it explicitly easier, I thought, why don't I just separate all the front card values and the back card values? So the keys represent the front cards and the values represent the back cards. So I create two lists which will hold each of these. Then I use a for loop to go through the formatted strings array. If the index is even, it is a key, i.e. a front card, else it's a value. For example, up here, this will have the index of 0, this will be 2 and 4 and so on, and 1, 3 and 5. Back down here, we separate all the front cards into their own list, all the back cards into their own list. Next, I create a for loop using the size of the keys list. I could have used the values, but they should be the same considering you have the Greek phrase and the English phrase. Next, I simply say for each index of the loop, I assign each field, the front and back, the front card value and the back card value. For example, if the index was 0, it will give me the very first front card value. So to, if I remember correctly, it will store that as the front, and it will give me the equivalent for the back card, which was the, and they'll put it inside there. So I'll have to and the, and then I simulate a click on the save button, and that should add the card. I then call thread.sleep, which causes the program to delay for 1 second. That's in milliseconds. 1000 milliseconds is 1 second, and this just gives it enough time to add the values and then wait for the next values to be inputted. And that's the end of our list of words method. So after list of words method, we then wait for 3 seconds, and then I just close the browser, and that's it. So what I'm going to do now is to fill in real values for these variables, and then I'm going to show you the program in action. So I filled out the config values, and now I'm going to pull up a random email containing a new set of words, and then I'm going to show you that in action, how to use it more or less. So 1 minute. I'm going to get rid of these words. Let's just get rid of them all. Boop. I found some words from the places topic, so I'm going to paste them in here. It's a long list, isn't it? So now for each one, this is kind of tedious if I'm honest. I'm going to add a full stop on the end of each line, symbolizing it is the end of the front and back card. Okay, now that I've done that, I'm just going to run the program. Hopefully it should work. Okay, oh, here it is, guys. It hugs me in. Bam, bam, bam. So as we can see, it's finding the front card, the Greek, and the English for the second card, and just going through that whole list and adding them in for me. See this, guys, it saves so much time. Imagine if I was doing this manually. Now that I've wrote this program, I can just have it done for me, just like that. Look how amazing this is. And this is what programming is about, to be honest. Automating things and doing amazing things like this, saving yourself time just by writing a few lines of code. So I'm very happy with how this has come out. It's amazing. And now it's finished. And that, guys, has been my Anki uploading. So I need to actually show you guys that it added all the words correctly. So I'm going to open up a browser. So here we go, guys. So as we can see, Greek deck for video, which is what we just added. It's got 20 cards inside. Let's click on it. Let's study now. To estiatorio, which is the restaurant. Bam. And because I knew it, I say, oh, it's easy. After faine, it will be. This will be. So because I said it will be, I'm gonna say again. I Elada, Greece. Easy. Xenodohio, hotel, and so forth. And this is how Anki is used, guys. Just going through your front and back flashcard until you exhaust the list, and so forth, guys. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed episode 0 or 2, and will stick with me for episode 3. I hope you learned something, and if you want to see more, like and subscribe, and throw some suggestions in the comments as well. See you in episode 3. Let's go.